Hey guys, new review this week. At the time I'm recording this video, we're going to take a graphical look at what's happening with the cryptos. We have action on Bitcoin. So previously, I told you we were in this range, in this downward consolidation. I mentioned when we were at the bottom that the highest probability would be that we would come back to retest the top of this range. Now we have reached the top of the range. We even slightly exceeded it. Right now, we are establishing ourselves, making a few daily candles above the descending resistance. So that's perfect. We are a little bit in a phase of indecision. What is interesting is that here overall we have the RSI, or the relative strength index, which is trending upwards. And this does indicate that there is some strength in this movement. I see a lot of people getting worked up on social media. For now, there's no point in getting overly excited since we are just in a consolidation phase. Certainly, we are breaking it upwards, which is quite positive. But what will be more interesting is to see that we still have less than 10% to gain. And at that moment, that's when it will become interesting. This is where we will really see explosiveness and we will have a clear direction. So for now, regarding Bitcoin, I haven't changed my approach. I'm holding it. I explained to you a long time ago, if you were following me during the 2020-2021 cycle, that I did not see Bitcoin reaching $100,000. Everyone thought we were going to break through that. It didn't come here in this first part of the cycle. I also told you that I didn't see Bitcoin breaking $100,000. I mentioned that I saw Bitcoin breaking its previous all-time high, maybe going a little higher. That was the target I had set. We stopped just a little below it. Now, we have had a very long lateralization, a very long digestion of this first bullish movement. And I think that indeed, if Bitcoin were to reach above its historical highs, it could very likely break the $100,000 mark. I think that today, the target of $100,000 or even more, I believe it won't stop at $100,000. In that case, I think it might go a little higher, maybe $120,000, something like that. I'm not saying it's going to happen right away. What I'm telling you is that the first thing here in the medium-term price action was to look at this range. Are we going to break above it or not? Once we break above, the second thing we need to watch is whether we are going to break the previous all-time high. And at the moment when the previous all-time high breaks, that's when we can either reopen positions or switch to altcoins. Because here it is, the altcoins, okay, are still a little bit lagging behind Bitcoin. Bitcoin is pushing more than the majority of the alts. Certainly there are some altcoins that have greatly benefited from a rebound, like Bitcoin, for example. We have certain cryptos that are making nice gains since their bottom. Here we have the Trump that we had seen earlier, which has once again gone above 520. So for those who entered at 260, who did not take profits and were thinking, maybe I should have, it might be the time to reconsider and make a partial profit taking. So there are certain altcoins that are waking up but are still lagging behind Bitcoin, and especially compared to their all-time highs. At what point am I going to start getting excited about the alts? Well, I told you, and once again, it's when we surpass that famous threshold of when we break the all-time high on Bitcoin. At that moment, there will certainly be an acceleration, but during the acceleration, we will be in price discovery and we will slowly approach $100,000, because I remind you that from the all-time high to reach $100,000, it can happen very, very, very quickly. It can happen extremely fast in just a few days, and it can happen with Bitcoin. That's when I will focus more on the alt. If I have cartridges to send, I will send them knowing that I am already very well exposed. So in itself, I might not even need to expose myself, but if I weren't exposed, that's when I might send out some shots. Because it might be at that moment that we risk having a real explosiveness in the altcoins, a true alt season, a genuine catch-up of alt dominance compared to Bitcoin. I think that at some point there will be an acceleration in Bitcoin and people will become interested in cryptocurrencies again, as well as in altcoins. There will certainly come a time when Bitcoin will slow down, and at that moment it could spill over quite a bit onto the altcoins. Knowing that Bitcoin is extremely capitalized, it will be capitalized even more. It could potentially double its capitalization in the best case scenario. And so all this money at some point could briefly but intensely shift to the alts. And we could see more interesting multiplier coefficients on the alts at that time, but just a little more patience. Guys, let's take a quick look at the S&P 500. Here we are again. We are still at a historical peak. Let's take a look at Tesla, which is still undervalued. Guys, I mentioned this to you in a previous video, and I'm telling you again. Tesla, very, very interesting. Still discovering the craziness, the innovations that Tesla brings. They are highlighted by SpaceX, which is another company of Elon Musk. I think this will give a lot of weight in terms of credibility for investors. I think that this stock is currently undervalued. The financial markets are in great shape and cryptocurrencies are slowly starting to wake up, you see, just waiting to explode. Are we arriving at the right moment for this? Maybe. There are a lot of stars that are aligning, especially with the American election. In short, we are ready for an explosion. Will it happen right away? No one can say. We don't have a crystal ball. We are watching the charts. We are monitoring what is happening here. We will mainly watch the historical peak. Once it is broken, I think we can let the dogs loose. Don't forget that I personally am farming gradient. If you don't know what gradient is, I refer you to the explanatory video I made about it. I think it's still not too late to test it. Knowing it's free, it can be set up in a few clicks, and that we will benefit from an airdrop. How much are we going to get? I have no idea. But in any case, when it's free, well, you have to take advantage of it.